Hello, and thank you for joining us on the Stay Healthy San Diego podcast, brought to you by Parker Physio, aimed at helping you live an enjoyable, fit, and healthy life in and around our community. And now, introducing your host and author of Aging Smarter, Dr. Matt Parker.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Stay Healthy San Diego podcast. I'm incredibly excited to have today's guest on. We have Lauren McLaughlin, and her bio is insane. I'm going to go ahead and just start going off the list here. She's the owner and CEO of Be Well Fitness and Nutrition. She went to SDSU, got a bachelor in kinesiology and nutrition. She got her master's from Capella University. She's a graduate of the Egoscue method. She went to the University of San Diego, where she completed a program with the Center for Integrative Natural Healing and Cooking program. She's a certified level 2 specialist of Project Walk Spinal Cord Injury Recovery Center. She's a Tony Robbins Business Mastery graduate. She's a national level NPC figure competitor, and she's a cancer survivor, an author, a mom. Holy cow, Lauren McLaughlin, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Lauren, I kind of want to start at the beginning. I'm always fascinated by people's story. I think people value, where you come from, what you're about. So go ahead, start in the top. I know 2001, you kind of started with nutrition, wellness, all that kind of fun stuff. Just kind of walk us through it.
Yeah. I grew up in the Bay Area, Northern California, and started lifting weights with my dad. He was a fitness guy, and I kind of knew my path early on. So I moved to San Diego in 2001 to attend SDSU and do my undergrad with the kinesiology and nutrition, and started working as a personal trainer, and then quickly found a job at the Spinal Cord Injury Recovery Center. So the first, 5-6 years of my career were working with special populations: spinal cord injury, stroke, brain injuries, some cerebral palsy. And it was kind of out of the box exercise-based recovery techniques that back then, there was traditional physical therapy for spinal cord injury, which was very in the box. They would treat only the areas not affected by paralysis, really, and then kind of ignore the rest. And we would get people out of their chairs, get them load bearing, get them doing adaptive exercises, moving their limbs for them, trying to reconnect, doing the brain to body connection, repetitive motions over and over. And we would work really closely with these people for hours at a time. And that really shaped me and my gratitude for having a healthy, able body, and really, really understanding the complexities of the body and how cool it is, really. It
is fascinating.
But I have a unique background and not just personal training. It was like their motivation was not aesthetic. It was not to look good in a bathing suit. It was to regain their lives. It was to be able to strengthen their upper body so they could brush their hair or brush their own teeth or push their chairs. It was people wanting to get back on their feet to walk their daughter down the aisle on her wedding day, or to walk across the stage and get their diploma on their high school graduation. And it was just, it really shaped me quite a bit. And, and then I took some time off to be a mom and was doing some private contract work, working for some other facilities, working on my own. And it was in 2012 when I was struck by a car while jogging.
Wow.
And this was after I'd had my 2 kids. I was pushing them both in the double jogging stroller, and they were ages 2 and 4 at the time.
Holy cow.
And they were strapped into that Bob stroller, and I was in pretty good shape, for having 2 kids. And, I always had this background in fitness and nutrition. And so, I was in pretty good shape. But I was struck by that car and kind of did a stunt woman type of move. I was in a crosswalk on a green light, and she was not looking and kind of plowed me down. And luckily the kids were not hit, and it was me. I kind of went up onto the hood with this defensive straight arm kind of thing, and then to the ground. And if I had not been already fairly fit, I would have been much worse off. I know that. And especially with my background in spinal cord injury, I realized immediately how immensely lucky I was to not have it be any worse. But I was kind of injured from head to toe. It was like I had about 8 herniated discs, a few bulging discs all throughout cervical, thoracic, lumbar, all the way down. Slap tear in my left shoulder, broken wrist from that impact on my left arm, broken foot, damage to both of my patellar tendons. And then there was, of course, PTSD, pain, insomnia. But really that moment, and I'll never forget the Honda emblem coming right at me. That was like the flashback that I would always get, the Honda emblem coming at me. But I always call that story my breakthrough story, because it completely changed everything in my life, my marriage, my fight, my determination. And, of course, every body part has a doctor that wants to do surgery on it.
Specialist, yep.
Absolutely. So that's kind of what the rabbit hole I went down was seeing all these different specialists and then them all wanting to perform their own surgeries. And I just thought, no, I'm not doing it. And I had to go to therapy for the PTSD and the traumatic aspect of it. But
you're still a mom throughout this time too.
Absolutely, of course. And I was married to a Marine, and he was a career Marine. He did 20 years, and the whole time we were together, he was in the Marine Corps. And at the time of the accident, this actually happened in Orlando, Florida, and he was in a different state for like a 3-month kind of course. And that was the first time ever that I kind of begged him to come home and said I needed him. I got hit by a car. The kids are shaken up. And he didn't come home. And it kind of told me a lot about where our relationship was, that, it was a tough lesson. Mm-hmm. But, I just I got to a place where it was a few months after the accident, and I was depressed because I couldn't work out like I was normally accustomed to. Mm-hmm. I was losing out on social time because the gym at that time was a lot of the moms, and it was social hour, and it was, and I was missing my friends. I was missing the activity. I was feeling not so great in general. I was going to physical therapy every day. I'd have to get babysitters to watch my kids just to go to physical therapy for 3 hours a day for months. And I remember a moment just saying, getting really sad and depressed that my body wasn't doing it wouldn't allow me because of the pain. It wouldn't allow me to do what I wanted to do. But I made a decision to just fight. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to use everything I know about nutrition and resistance training and strengthening my body. I'm going to focus on strengthening my body. And that's when I switched mental gears, basically. Mm-hmm. But I just made a decision to fight and come back stronger and fitter and more badass. That was kind of what I was thinking in my head. I said, screw this. This is not the end of my story. I'm going to change the story. I'm going to change everything. So I made a crazy goal was to get on stage in a blinged out bikini, as like a figure competitor for the bodybuilding thing. And so I did. It was like a year after the accident, I got on stage for the first time.
A year after the accident.
And I didn't have as much muscle as I do now, obviously. It's been years of building muscle.
She's very strong, by the way, podcast world. You can't see her, but she's very jacked. So.
But it took years to get to where I am now. And it's just because I fell in love with weight training. And because it's like my meditative, it's like my spiritual practice. It's like, because I focused on the strength. And the changes to the outer shell are just a bonus to me. To me, it was like all about me and my focus. And also, it's like the hour or two that I have each day to kind of like shut off the mom, shut off the wife, shut off the coach, shut off the businesswoman, and just train. And so that's kind of what has evolved now into where I am now. But that was absolutely the start of my business. And that's when I realized, like, I got myself through, such huge injuries and huge setbacks and depression and all the things that people are so used to dealing with. And I fought to come back and change the story. And so, now I'm divorced and going to get remarried. We co-parent our kids really well. I'm healthy. I'm happy. I feel great. I look better than I ever have. And, you know, it all came from that really crappy thing.
Wow. That is absolutely incredible. So you make a decision that you say weight training is going to be part of my life.
Absolutely.
You make this immaculate recovery, and then now you're Be Well Fitness and Nutrition.
Absolutely. I knew that I could take everything I knew about the body and help anyone else get through their own struggles. Yeah. And so now it's like the people I coach, what I've realized is not just the people I coach, but through the people I coach, I've learned that everybody has a story. Everybody has some setbacks. Everybody has things that come at them. And there's so much in life we can't control, but we can control how we respond to it. And so that's like, there's a lot of people have really deep-seated food issues, really deep-seated body image issues. And so it's not, what I do in coaching is help people find a sustainable, realistic approach to nutrition for them individually that they can sustain and adhere to for a lifetime without any restrictions, but teaching portions, teaching how it's going to work for them to make them feel and perform their best. You know, it's a huge variety of people.
I love it because it's very personalized, and I feel like there's so much info out there in nutrition right now. You're getting bombarded with it daily. It's the keto diet, it's collagen protein, it's bulletproof coffee. Like when people ask you about that kind of stuff, like what do you normally tell them? Because it's a lot of information.
Oh, it's everything has to do with what is sustainable for that person. So when people say, well, what do you think about keto? Or what do you think about intermittent fasting, or what do you think about any of those things? The key to fat loss, which is what most people come to me looking to do, is to take fat off their bodies. And the thing is that Americans as a population know how to lose weight. They don't know how to keep it off, because what they do is they diet. I'm doing air quotes.
Yep.
They air quote. They choose something that they think is going to take the weight off, but they don't think about the sustainability factor. So absolutely, they'll do a super restrictive diet. They'll take off a bunch of weight really fast, and then they can't adhere to it. They can't sustain it for a long time. It's too restrictive. It's too low calories. There's metabolic adaptation that goes, you know, their hunger signals increase. Their daily energy expenditure goes down, and then they rebound. Happens all the time. So my approach is to find what's going to work for them long term. So if someone asks me about the keto diet, I'm going to say, do you see yourself eating that way for a year or 2 years or the rest of your life? And if the answer is, well, no, I couldn't sustain it for that long, so I'm just doing it for right now, then I'm going to say, why?
What's the point?
What's the point? What's the point? And people come to me literally saying, like, I tried the keto thing, it didn't work for me. And I'm like, you know, do you like carbs? And they'll say, yes. Most people do. Yeah. And I'll teach them how to incorporate the right amount of carbs, maybe the best ones for them, that's going to make them feel good. But I'm never going to demonize sugar. I'm never going to demonize flour. I'm never going to, because if you do that, there's so much, like, I just talked the other day about food language and labeling things good or bad, healthy or bad. As soon as you put that negative label on something, you associate guilt. So when people say, oh, it's my cheat day, or I'm going to have a cheat meal, I've changed the language. So it's no longer a cheat. It's not, you know, you're not cheating on a marriage. It's food, and maybe it's something that's not in your normal thing. I call it a refeed meal for a lot of, like, especially with bodybuilders, if they're in a caloric deficit for a long period of time. I like to give a spike in calories just to remind the body that you're not in famine and there is plenty of food. I use those refeed meals very calculated. You know, it's for a purpose. Sometimes it's for a mental break for people. So, but the language is important to me.
I love the fact that you take the psychological factor into it as well.
Absolutely.
Because the deep emotional, like you said earlier. So,
oh my gosh, you don't even know the rate of binge eating disorder, body dysmorphia, and of course then there's orthorexia, which is kind of a new. I don't know if you're familiar with that one.
Please tell us more.
So, you know, there's anorexia, which you restrict your calories crazy level. Bulimia is where you binge and purge typically, and you can purge by causing yourself to vomit or by over exercising. now that binge eating disorder is kind of being talked about more recently, and that's very common in the fitness industry. It's very common in the bodybuilding space. It's very common with athletes. Again, they're restricting, especially to get stage lean. Like, it's not fun. I've been there. I've been very lean, and especially as a woman, it's really difficult to sustain that. And binge eating disorder is a huge thing with competitors. And they're not talking about it, which I wish people would be more open with it. But that's a common one. Now, orthorexia is the condition in which you feel the need to be perfect, too perfect. And that's a whole nother disorder. And I'm seeing that as well.
So how do you deal with something like that? So I believe I have orthorexia. Like, I have to stick to my strict diet. Like, how do you begin to unravel that? How do you make that turn for someone in the positive direction?
I kind of try to teach them to look at food a little differently. And again, lifting the restrictions and teaching them, I teach them calories. And of course, in order to lose body fat, you need to be in a caloric deficit. Doesn't matter if it's keto or intermittent fasting. If any of those things put you in a caloric deficit, you're going to lose body fat. And so if someone comes to me and I've had this plenty of times, they come to me and they're too obsessed with the scale, the number on the scale. They're too obsessed with the date, like the body fat percentage, which if they're going by the bioimpedance body fat percentage thing, that thing is so, like, it's got a 3 to 4% margin of error. Number one, I tell people that off the bat all the time. And number two, you can hack that thing by drinking an extra glass of water.
Yep.
Right. So, they get obsessed with the wrong things, or, and they come already obsessed with those things, the data, the numbers, and then also with down to the calorie and every single macronutrient. And they cannot say yes to anything else. They're one of those people. I'm slowly trying to get them to step back and look at the big picture. And I actually will instead of having them measure things and weighing things, I'm going to teach them to eyeball it. And I'm going to force them to not weigh it. I'm going to force them to not weigh themselves. I won't even take their weight because I'm like, I don't care. It's about how your clothes fit. It's about how you feel. It's about your energy. It's about your digestion. It's about how you sleep. All those things, how you perform in the gym, all those things matter to me more than the number on the scale. It's just one variable, and I have to tell them that over and over and over. But for the most part, the people who are orthorexic, following a structured meal plan is probably not the smartest thing for them. And also with binge eaters. But I do work with these people, and I just do it in a much more flexible approach. And it's like the opposite coaching, where I'm trying to teach them how to get balance in their lives. And they will. If I just say, just please trust me. They're afraid of eating carbs. They're afraid of eating, it's crazy. And these are young people that I see sometimes. And they've already established some really unhealthy relationships with food, and so... And I know I stay in my lane though. If it's someone who needs a therapist, I'm absolutely not a licensed therapist in binge eating disorder, but I have experiences with it. I have a bunch of people that I've worked with or I'm familiar with who have been through it. And if I know that it's outside of my range, I'm going to say we should also be putting you with a therapist, because there's some deep-seated stuff. And I mean, food is just we associate it with, celebratory dinners, family time, comfort foods. And I think it's pretty natural to want to comfort with food, but it's teaching people how to not, constantly medicate with food and being more aware of what they're putting in their bodies. Also teaching them macronutrient ratios and what's more ideal for most people. And I teach them how to do that themselves. But, I also don't want people doing the obsessive macro calculations. I'm doing it for them.
So for those that don't know, that maybe listen to this podcast, what's a macronutrient?
Okay, so macro is a really common buzzy word that's getting thrown around all over the place, but it's nothing new. It just stands for macronutrient, which macro means big. It's just the nutrient that we need in the largest quantities. We're talking grams and ounces. So what are those? Carbs, fats, and protein. I also take into consideration fiber. I also take into consideration water, which I consider a macronutrient. I also take into consideration sodium and overall, those. But I'm looking at day as a whole and then week as a whole. So there's a lot, it gives me flexibility, and it helps me teach people how to do that flexibility. Like if they have one day that's more calories, I teach them how to pull back, look at the big picture, and look at the week as a whole rather than the day. And, it's what I'm doing is, an intake process for me is I have a form on my website that's pretty detailed, and I want to know about these people and their lives, their lifestyles, their dieting history, what they do for a living. Do they commute? Are they sitting at a desk all day? I ask all those questions. I want to know all of it. What do they prefer as far as food goes? And, allergies, barriers for success, all those things. So people need to fill that form out, and then I know that they're ready somewhat. Gotcha. Because they've actually taken action to do something. Yeah. I get a lot of people DMing me and messaging me like, oh, I want to get in with you. I say, okay, just fill out this form and then we'll get on the phone. And if they don't do it, I'm not chasing them because I know they're not ready. Yep. If they were, they'd take action. But I'm taking all that information, and then I get on the phone with them. I kind of already have a good picture of their personality and kind of their lifestyle. And then I can make give them a good consultation on what I advise from there. And I see people in person. I also do all online through email and text, phone calls and that kind of thing. But what I'm doing from there, depending on the person and their goals and their lifestyle, some people have a lot of weight to lose. Some people want to build muscle. Some people have digestive issues. Some people have health issues that limits their food that they can tolerate. So I'm working with all those kind of people, elite athletes, obese, and everything in between. And so what I'm doing is I'm figuring out their BMR, I'm figuring out their TDEE, which is basal metabolic rate, bare minimum calories that you need to survive. Like if you were laid up in a hospital bed with 2 broken legs, they'd still need to give you calories for your BMR, right? Survival. And then TDEE, which is total daily energy expenditure. Okay. And that's based on all the variables, your body, how much lean mass you have, what do you do, how sedentary have you been in your life, how active have you been, all those things I'm taking into consideration to kind of roughly estimate your daily energy expenditure. And we don't burn the same amount of calories every single day, but there's a rough estimate. And then if their goal is to lose body fat, I know that they need to be in a caloric deficit. So I'll usually set them at a moderate 20% deficit, which say someone's total daily energy expenditure is 2,000 calories. You want to lose some body fat. I'm going to take away 400 calories roughly and give you 1,600 calories. And then I tell them exactly what to eat each day based on whether they want to eat just breakfast, lunch, and dinner, whether they want to have breakfast, lunch, dinner, and a couple other snacks, whatever it is. I'm basically customizing it for that person.
You got down to a science is what it sounds like.
Exactly. So. And then based on, some people just want to know, they just want basic stuff. Just tell me ounces and how much rice, how much sweet potato, how much whatever. And I make it very simple. And then there's other people who want some recipes. So I kind of give a mix of both based on the person. And I've got a huge database of recipes from over the years. I've gotten very creative. I
love it. Yeah. So what are other, like when you start working with a client or just in the general population, because you work with a lot of specific ones, but in the general, like where do you think the biggest mistakes that we're making with nutrition?
Oh my gosh, overthinking it. People overthink it. And well, like to be honest, I think most people have never, it's been shown in research over and over that people underestimate their actual caloric intake and overestimate their actual calorie burn all the time. So, for me, it was really learning what calories look like on your plate. So people overeat constantly because the portions are huge. We go to restaurants and now they're putting calorie counts on menus, which is fantastic. But you see
terrifying sometimes.
Terrifying.
So, yeah.
Like the Cheesecake Factory. It has all these, my gosh, one entree at the Cheesecake Factory is like my total daily calories. It's crazy. So people are overeating and not realizing it. And I have clients people coming to me all the time, they're, overweight. And they say, well, Lauren, I must be in starvation mode because I don't eat that much. and I can't gain weight. And it's like, okay, you're not in starvation mode. That's not a thing. You are still eating too much. But what they're doing is they're eating low nutrient foods that are highly caloric and not satisfying as far as nutrients go. Like, if you're, like I just said, gave you a perfect example. If someone's daily energy is 2,000 calories and to lose weight, they're at 1,600. One meal from fast food could be 1,600 calories, but not filling at all. They're hungry again 2 hours later. They don't realize that they just ate their whole day's worth of calories. The other thing, like acai bowls. People are like, acai bowls are healthy though, Lauren. I eat so healthy, I can't lose weight. I don't understand. Well, it's all about calories. You're still going over your calories. You could eat healthy all day long. Peanut butter, almond butter, that's healthy, right? An extra spoon of that cancels out your 400 calorie deficit and you're not going to lose weight. So, I'm teaching people these things. And I think once I give them a very detailed plan that gives them some options, gives them flexibility, works in their favorite foods, but also making sure they're getting their nutrient dense things, and them actually having to weigh out portions. Like if I say 5 ounces of chicken breasts and then they weigh that out and they look on it on their plate and they're like, oh, that's what a portion's supposed to look like. They're gaining, they're getting a big picture and they're learning how to do this forever. That's the thing. I don't want to create macro calculating, obsessive, crazy people. I want to teach people all the ways that you could do it. It's going to work for them based on, again, all those other variables and what they like. And I want them to think long term. So as I might give them really structured meal plans, and then I slowly kind of give them more freedom. Like instead of saying half a cup of rice, I'm going to say 25 grams of carbs of choice. And then I give them options that are mostly carbs. And, whether if they're not gluten intolerant, which most people are not, like gluten intolerant. Most people can tolerate gluten. They just eat way too much of it.
Understood. Okay.
But, it's like I'm going to give them options and some freedom so that they don't feel stuck in this structure. But some people really like the structure and thrive in structure.
Yep.
I've got a lot of Marines. I work with a lot of Marines, and they typically will look at my plan as an order. And so they'll do it, which is great. Again, long-term adherence is key. And the clients that are the most challenging are the ones who won't adhere. And that's a whole nother thing.
Understood.
Yeah.
What about pills and supplements? I mean,
oh my gosh. The biggest mistake is expecting these insane transformation results. And the food is number one. I always tell everyone, nutrition should be your number one. Finding movement and exercise that you like, that you can do long term and you want to do long term, that's great. But I get that all the time. It's like, Lauren, well, what can I take to make this happen faster? I'm like, you can take some patience is what you can do.
Well done. Well done.
But, with the supplements, I mean, the fitness industry and the supplement industry related to the fitness and health industry is a huge market. There's so much stuff out there that's not regulated by anyone. People can say anything they want on a label. No one's testing it unless they're paying for someone to test it. And so it's a little scary. So I've only promoted and suggested things to my clients that I personally have taken, that I personally believe in. And I don't push the products, though. I tell them food number one. If budget is an issue, for example, I want you to invest in good quality food. And not worry so much about the supplements. With some people, I always rank the order of importance when, I give them like these are what I suggest. These are the brands that I like and use and trust. But if you cannot afford all of these things, then here's my order of importance. That's kind of what I'll give them. But yeah, the fat burners, the thermogenics, the test boosters, all that crap is exactly that crap, mostly. And I go by science, I go by research, I go by data, I go by what's current out there. And because you can't argue science. But for the most part, those things are all pretty much bogus. They're a waste of money. There's, again, caloric deficit is the key to fat loss.
Gotcha.
And fat burners, I mean, usually fat burners are just high in the stim factor, high in caffeine, which might have you burn a few more calories, but you can still, again, cancel it out really easily. It's but the caffeination just increase your heart rate, which increases your metabolic, activity just a little bit, but you're not burning fat. It's not magically targeting fat. It's just maybe having you burn a few more calories just from the stim. But there's so much out there, and I just tell people to be careful because, again, it's not regulated mostly.
It's good advice. So I want to transition more into the fitness side of it now, because I know there's a lot of you're level 2 NPC figure competitors, so you've been around the block in regards to fitness and lifting weights. What are like common mistakes you see now with fitness that people can avoid?
Well, again, I try to encourage people to find what they like. And if they don't like going into the gym, then I give them workouts they can do at home. If they don't like lifting weights, then it's walking, hiking at the beach and doing resistance bands. It's like whatever, you got to find something that works for you. But the most common mistakes I see in the gym specifically are people going in without a plan, just kind of, wandering around from machine to machine with no real true guide or structure or plan. And also, I notice a lot of women scared of lifting heavier weight because they think they're going to become men. They're going to be
So that's
manly.
not true, by the way. We can dispel that right now.
Yes.
Yeah, girls picking up weights doesn't mean they're going to be strong.
Absolutely not. I mean, and it's just a misconception. So again, I have to educate. I absolutely know that not every woman wants to be as jacked as me, but I do this for me. I don't care what anybody else thinks. It's me and my body, and but there's plenty of girls that do come to me and say, I want to get jacked like you. And so I teach them how to do it.
I love it.
And I actually work with men just as much as I do with women. My business has always been like 50-50 male and female.
Awesome.
I work with, like I said, I work with a lot of Marines, male and female Marines, but bodybuilding competitors, firefighters, policemen, active, like the first responders, they all have to be fit. They should be fit to perform their job, and the Marine Corps is one that they do have a height and weight standard that they have to, if they're not in it, it looks bad on them. So these are great clients for me because they have a professional reason for being fit. And so
Got to get the paychecks.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It looks, if you want to get promoted, you better be fit,
Understood. So, I mean, incredible. So, Lauren, I can't thank you enough for being here today. Where can we find you?
Okay, well, I do most of my social media stuff is Instagram. I'm muscle_mom of 2.
Okay.
Muscle mom of 2.
The links are going to be in the show notes, by the way, if you're listening to this right now. So, okay.
I've been grinding on my Instagram page for the last 6 years. I'm also on Twitter, Be Well Fitness. I'm also on Facebook, Be Well Fitness and Nutrition. But I do most of my gramming. It's mostly gramming. So you can find me on the gram.
Gotcha.
I have a link to my website. The client intake form is linked in the bio on my Muscle Mom of 2 page. And I also have a bunch of ebooks that I'm going to be putting up in a variety of categories.
Awesome. So we got Twitter, we got Instagram. It's going to be all in the show notes. Before I let you go, Lauren, I like to ask people, just because we're a San Diego-based podcast, what's your hidden gem? What's your restaurant that people don't know enough about? That's kind of your secret in hiding.
Well, I don't know if I want to tell people because then it's going to be really busy.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to turn off I'm going to hit the remote. Okay, we're off now. So.
Well, we do a lot of tacos.
Okay.
And so I like seafood tacos. My fiance is all about the beef and the pork. So there's a place it's actually in Vista. It's called the Taco Bar. It's like our favorite. I mean, we take people there all the time and they're like blown away at how good it is. It's amazing. But I feel like you can get really good tacos pretty much all over San Diego. So that's just, but I also we try to hit up the ones in the Oceanside downtown because we're trying to promote. We want that to grow and expand. So there's
Gotcha.
The local tap house. There's Bagby's. There's Pacific 333. They're all oceanside places that we love. We also like just, upper crust pizza.
Okay.
Pizza
there we
maniac.
Go. Yeah. Nothing wrong with a little pizza. Nothing wrong with a little bit of pizza.
Yeah,
so.
and I do have a dining out guide that's an ebook that I teach people how to eat. How to eat out, because eating out is a social aspect of life, and so it's sad when you start denying going out with your friends and then they just stop inviting you to go out.
That's very tough. I would agree.
So I kind of like to teach people how to do it.
Awesome.
How to make it work.
Awesome. So, Lauren, again, I want to thank you for having you on. And then, if you guys want to find more about her, please check out the show notes. She's all over Instagram. We'll get her ebooks out there. And Lauren, hope we have you on again soon.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you for listening to the Stay Healthy San Diego podcast, brought to you by Parker Physio. If your pain is preventing you from staying healthy and active, and you'd like to avoid surgery, painkillers, or just want to get back to doing the things you love in and around San Diego, we offer both a free ebook and free over-the-phone consultation to help you figure out the root cause of your pain and the next best steps for resolving it. Find our ebooks online at parkerphysio.com/health-tips. There you'll find ebooks for topics such as low back pain, sciatica, shoulder pain, knee pain, and neck pain. These quick-to-read reports will provide you with expert tips, tricks, and exercises to help solve your pain from the comfort of your own home. Just visit parkerphysio.com/health-tips to download your ebook and have it delivered directly to your inbox. We also offer free, no-obligation telephone consultations with a doctor of physical therapy to residents of San Diego. Just call us at 858-900-3361 or visit us at parkerphysio.com and click the Talk to a PT on the phone button. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you next time on the Stay Healthy San Diego podcast.